What we do is we actually perform clinical studies and clinical trials on patients who are unfortunately critically unwell in ICUs in Dublin, around the country and in Europe. And what our case study was about was actually pandemic preparedness and really the work we've done in COVID-19. So our research really was three different tracks. Well, the first one was an observational study called SPRINT-SARI. So we collected data on patients who were becoming unwell in our hospitals and admitted to ICU, what treatments they received in hospital and what their outcomes were. Previously, this work had been done in previous pandemics, but people collected different data. This time, we all agreed in advance internationally what data we would collect. So that was really useful. In addition, we worked with colleagues in Edinburgh to collect genetic material on patients. And the idea was that if a future pandemic was to arrive, can we find genetic markers that are associated with outcomes in the critically ill? And I suppose the final thing, or the jewel in our crown, was a trial called REMAP-CAP, and it was to prepare for a future pandemic. So we'd been working for a number of years, randomizing patients with pneumonia in critical illness into various trials. But in the back of our minds, we were concerned that a pandemic may happen, and that this trial would be ready to immediately pivot from a peacetime footing into a wartime footing to be able to try new treatments in the face of an oncoming pandemic. The impact of this research was immediate. I mean, there was a clear evidence gap as the coronavirus pandemic raged on, and the three different studies addressed different areas. So the SPRINT-SARI study gave that information to doctors about what patients get sick, how long they'll be in hospital, and what their outcomes might be. The genomic study helped us identify drugs that may be potential therapeutic targets. And then the REMAP-CAP trial allowed us to actually test them. So with my other hat on as an ICU doctor at the bedside in a hospital, I now know what drugs to go to the shelf to use and which ones not to use. So the impact of this research has been, well, huge on our patients because these are drugs that reduce mortality, huge for their families because these patients do better, stay less time in hospital, and that also has benefits for the health service and society as a whole as well.